Hi, I'm here to talk about time banking and Time Bank. Time Bank is a project that I have recently started in collaboration with Anton Bidokle, with whom I co-direct eFlux. Time Banks follows, our long-standing interest in self-sustaining practices and circulation mechanisms. In the past, we have worked on projects such as the pawn shop and eFlux video rental. Now, our intention is to develop Time Bank into a fully functional platform that will allow members of the cultural community to exchange their skills, time, and knowledge without having to rely on market value as an arbitration mechanism. Time banking is a tool by which a community can create an alternative economic model where they exchange their time and skills rather than acquire goods and services through the use of money. This exchange concept is based upon the premise that everyone has something to contribute, and so it creates a network that connects unmet needs with untapped resources. Time banking is not barter. Barter economies have been in operation throughout history, but the idea of using time as a unit of exchange appeared only after the Industrial Revolution. The origins of time-based currency can be traced both to the American anarchist Josiah Warren, who ran the Cincinnati Times store from 1827 until 1830, and to the British industrialist and philanthropist Robert Owen, who founded the utopian community New Harmony. While both systems were based on the principles of mutualism and the labor theory of value, Josiah Warren's currency was explicitly pegged to time as labor, so that, by example, 8 hours of labor on shoemaking were equivalent to 100 pounds of corn. On the other hand, Robert Owen's currency did not impose labor as the direct translation of time's worth, but simply bore an inscription referring to the value of 10 hours, or whatever denomination the notes were issued on. This was quite important for us in regard to Time Bank, because it made us think that the value of time rests on its potentiality and not on its use to complete a given task that has been pre-established before the transaction takes place. There have been other instances of alternative economies in recent history, most notably the Notgeld, or emergency money, that appeared in Germany after the hyperinflation of 1923. Notgeld was unofficial money that was issued by cities, boroughs, and even private companies when there was a shortage of official coins and bills. As long as the Notgeld was accepted, no harm was done, since the Notgeld was a certificate of debt. It was more stable than real money, since its denomination was often pegged to material goods such as gold, corn, and meat. And it was made very pretty on purpose. That way, many people collected the bills, and the debt would never have to be paid. It was printed on all kinds of materials: leather, fabric, porcelain, silk, and tinfoil. Since it was not legal tender, the only people who dealt in it were those who wanted to. And funny enough, it was a stabilizing influence on the real currency, which of course was still being used. The first successful contemporary time bank was started by Paul Glover in Ithaca, New York, in 1991. Following his idea, people started exchanging time, which led to the creation of a time-based currency, the Ithaca hours, that even local businesses started to accept, and that is still very much in operation. Time banking and service exchange have since developed into a full-fledged movement, usually centered around local communities. On October 15, we launched Time Bank in London as part of the curatorial project Impossible Exchanges. For this, we have asked a group of artists, architects, activists, writers, and designers to suggest what they thought would be the best representation for the exchange of time, and to design a symbolic currency that is backed solely by the mutual trust within the cultural community. We were actually very curious to see if this token of exchange could be represented and how. Time Bank is modeled after regular time banks, where those who take part in work are paid in time that has been donated by others. Every time bank transaction will allow individuals to electronically request, offer, and pay for services in time bank hours. When an account member performs a task, he or she earns credit hours that may be banked for use at a later date, donated to another person, or contributed to Time Bank for the development of communal projects. For example, if you happen to be in Beijing or Hamburg and need someone to help you go shopping for materials or translate your press release, you would be able to draw on resources from Time Bank without money changing hands. Through Time Bank, we hope to create an intellectual currency and a parallel microeconomy for the cultural community. A microeconomy that is not geographically bound, and that will help to create a sense of wealth and worth for many of the exchanges that take place within our field. Especially those exchanges that, because they don't produce commodities, either objectual or conceptual, end up falling outside of the sanctioned structure that can validate them as productive or profitable. Time Bank aims to be a system where time is the medium of exchange with which we can measure and build social capital. time money creates a reciprocal relationship between people and institutions, as well as between people and people, which is something that volunteering, interning, and the standard free labor that we usually do as cultural producers are not able to achieve. As British author David Boyle puts it, intellectual currencies are subtle and behave very much like money. They can be spent on internal services or simply appraised as earnings which, like air miles or loyalty points, could get deleted at the end of a certain period. It tends to be the flow that is important with intellectual currencies, not the bottom line. Most important, every exchange of intellectual currency creates a debt that must be paid off. The flow of currency is self-generating, just as the flow of information should be, but very often is not. The idea of culture circulating through an informal economy and alternative channels, not necessarily with the intention of replacing the imperative economic model, but rather as a way of retaining a certain autonomy over the terms of our exchanges, means a process of symbolic income generation that is unregulated by the institutions of society, but that operates in a legal and social environment in which similar activities are regulated. It is hard to find a concise definition of informal economy. Many studies approach the issue from the reverse and describe what an informal economy is not. Namely, it is not a formal economy like a white market, it is not a criminal economy like a black market, and it is not care economy like a household is. So, this informal economy, or gray market, does not have universal parameters. It generates situations that foster the exchange and circulation of cultural production that has not yet been assimilated and therefore does not have a fixed value. We can determine our own currency based on instances of our trust in each other. As these situations cannot be instantly recognized and may not even be replicable, since there is no singular model for them, there is a multiplicity at work, an abolishing of distance. All here, all now. Thank you.